I think we are live. Give me a second so we could double check. We seem to be live on Facebook. We are, for some reason, also live on YouTube. All right. Look at these beautiful faces. We are, for some reason, also live on and killing the audio. Very nice. All right. Well, here we go. We have about an hour to discuss about 7 or 8 hours of material. Welcome, everyone. This is the Real Football Podcast. I am Bassam Haddad, and I am joined by my colleagues with the Sheikh, Mr. Matt Atbury. We call him the Sheikh because his knowledge of football is encyclopedic and extremely impressive and does not cease to impress us at every turn. Hi, Matt.
Morning.
Good morning. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's Matt. And let me say, before I introduce everyone else, this topic or this episode is episode 9 of the Real Football Podcast, the sport that you freaking play with your foot, not with your hands. And I'm really dismayed at the stupid commercials on American TV that show the American football, I forget his name, the quarterback. What is his name? He's always in the commercials.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. And he's like, it's soccer. And he opens the dictionary and he says, soccer, it says it here. It's a round ball. No, it's an oval ball. Who's an oval ball? Are you serious? And then anyway, this is like the lowest point, I think, of this discourse.
This podcast.
Naming, yeah. So this podcast is titled History is Written, a World Cup Like No Other. And we're also joined here by the Real Football Group members, or some of them. There's like 14 of us, including Arjun Sethi. Hi, Arjun.
Hi there. How are you guys?
Great. And Omar Dahi, who's wearing his Argentina jersey. Hi, Omar.
Let's go. Hi, good to be here.
That's right. Well, it depends now. Abdullah Al-Aryan in Doha, who watched actually the game and sent us footage from it. Ahlan, Abdullah.
Hi, and just for the record, I'm repping Luka Modric with this jersey today.
Awesome.
So am I, actually.
And
nice.
And Khalid, who is joining us from Virginia, Khalid Namiz. Hi, Khalid.
Hi, guys. I'm wearing the Holland kit, the former Holland kit, in solidarity with Bassam, but I have to say one thing. Seer.
That's right. So when you go back and forth, Khalid, you come in and out of focus. So yeah. I would like to start our discussion today by, first of all, let me share that we are actually addressing quite a bit of issues today. And let me just note that we will try to be as efficient as possible. We're addressing upsets. We're addressing the next steps. We're addressing questions of high level importance in the football world that have to do with a remarkable, sorry about that. Remarkable players like Messi and Ronaldo and what's happening with them. But most of all, we will start by addressing Morocco and the beautiful display that we have seen, as well as the remarkable expression of solidarity, especially in the Arab world, among Arabs, both in the Arab world and the diaspora, as well as, of course, the Amazigh communities in North Africa. And we would like to share that this is a bit of a complicated topic, but in all honesty, we have been looking through the internet day in, day out, and I have done a good share of this, and it's remarkable how much solidarity we have seen across the Arab world with Morocco, to the exclusion of most other regions around the world, including in Africa, as well as in Muslim majority countries, where there is some celebrations, but in terms of scale, nowhere near, I'm talking about orders of magnitude, nowhere near what we have seen in the Arab world, which is a wonderful indicator, though we don't want to make too much of this because we all know that by the 19th of December, a lot of this will unfortunately end, and we go back to all sorts of, non-niceties that will occur in the Arab world. I'll stop here and I'll ask Matt to lead us through the first topic as we welcome Eli, who is in Beirut. I'm in Beirut as well, just arrived from travel, so I don't have a jersey. I'm sorry. Hi, Eli. Eli Haddad is wearing the Liverpool jersey, and electricity is in and out, of course, in Lebanon. So we will have to navigate this with him. Matt, why don't you share with us the first topic? And we have to accommodate Abdullah in Doha because he's not going to be able to stay very long.
Absolutely. And the first topic is going to be historic upsets that we saw both yesterday and earlier in the tournament when Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. Ultimately, they did not make it out of the group, but we are seeing, and this was something that you touched on heavily, these so-called B teams. Maybe they're not B teams anymore. Also, in advance of Abdullah taking over on that topic, I would like to apologize. I actually accidentally cursed the Iranian team by wearing my Team USA Converse that match day.
That's exactly why they lost.
So, Abdullah, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I guess one question, just because you mentioned the Saudi win over Argentina, I guess. If Argentina goes on to win the entire thing, does that mean through the transitive property that Saudi Arabia has won the World Cup? Because there's a lot of talk around here. No, but I mean, obviously that was a historic win in the very first group stage match. And to Bassam's point earlier, I think it's interesting to see the extent to which that solidarity is kind of transferable, it seems, because, I to my shock, at least, the idea of people kind of all becoming one with Saudi over the course of just those 24 or 48 hours until they kind of played their second match and came crashing back down to earth was something I hadn't anticipated. Of course, knowing what we know about the kind of the politics of the region and Saudi's place within it. But it tells you that there's an appetite and there's a room, I think, for a certain kind of expression of solidarity at a more popular level that I think tends to either ignore or be dismissive of some of the kind of elite maneuverings that we've been seeing over the course of years, if not decades. And I think it really came to pass throughout this kind of incredible story of Morocco's success. I was very fortunate enough to be there against Spain and against Portugal in both of those matches. I can't explain, how incredible the atmosphere was. And as much as you have a massive Moroccan community here, both local people who've been living here for many years, as well as those who came in just for that, but also just the broader audiences. I mean, people coming from all over this region just to support Morocco, big flights of people coming from Egypt and coming from Lebanon and coming from Tunisia has been really incredible, not to mention the kind of the local population here, the communities here who are out in full force. And so everywhere you go, you see the kind of the joint flags, right? A Qatari flag next to a Moroccan flag, or an Egyptian or Lebanese flag with the Moroccan flags, people exchanging, flags and taking photographs everywhere, learning the chants, learning the language, learning the songs so that they can cheer them on throughout the course of the stadium. And I can't tell you, I mean, the crowds in both of these matches was easily kind of 80 or 90% Moroccan. You'd think that Portugal and Spain, the two big European powerhouses, would have far greater presence. Really, you didn't feel it, didn't see it, you didn't really hear it as much. And so there was something really historic about this World Cup, not just because of the results, but also because of the atmosphere, because of the stories that you see, the things that are happening on the margins that we probably hear about a little bit less, although I think a lot of it has made itself very present on social media. I think the role of the Moroccan team mothers has been really incredible, seeing the kind of the stuff that's been written. And so there is something, I think, different. And there's a shift in the way that we're even thinking about football. These aren't stories that we would normally hear in past World Cups when profiling teams from other countries, from other parts of the world. And so I think there's something really great about what we're seeing. And I do hope to kind of push back against Bassam's pessimism a little bit, that there's something in here that carries over, and that we do start to see, the building of these solidarities as something that kind of transcends, and that we put aside maybe some of the kind of rivalries that you've mentioned, or we kind of put them in a certain perspective, right? That there's something about a football rivalry, but there's also something beautiful about the way that people can come together in moments that matter.
Before we let you go, and I hope you don't have to go. I mean, you seem comfortable. There aren't people like trying to like take your seat, and they're not, they're not trying to get your attention. So I hope you stay with us. Before we, lose you in any case, can you tell us a little bit about the vibe, a little bit more about the vibe in Qatar, in Doha? What did it feel like, and what is it that you were either impressed most with or surprised most with by?
I guess just surprised by how smooth it's all been. I mean, there were a lot of nerves about the logistics, getting in and out of matches, things like that. Yesterday, I have to say, in Morocco, Portugal, was probably the hardest it was, getting both to the stadium and then getting in, only because there were thousands of Morocco fans without tickets that were just kind of there. But the atmosphere that created made the kind of whatever little inconvenience kind of worth it, because it just added so much more to the atmosphere. The fact that there were so many fans present, even those knowing that they weren't getting into the match. But beyond that, honestly, everything has been incredibly accessible in a lot of ways. The idea that people can go to multiple matches. I have a lot of friends who've been bouncing around from one quarterfinal to another, and being able to attend multiple matches in the same city. I think also the interactions, both between locals as well as visitors, but then also among visitors, has been really incredible. Like I said, again, this is the kind of the show of solidarity, and of course, Palestine being present everywhere. Not something that people kind of anticipated. And I know a lot of the stories that have been written about this have kind of made it a certain kind of, Arab solidarity question. But I think the solidarity we've seen that has been far more globalized. People from Europe, from South Asia, from Latin America, all of them, desperately trying to take photos with a Palestinian flag, or kind of expressing their own solidarities. And so this has kind of shown how globalized this concern has been. And it's taken center stage in a way that's been difficult to ignore. I'm not sure what the broadcasts have done with the fact that there's the presence of the flag everywhere, and the fact that people are talking about it so openly and visibly here. But I'm sure it's been a bit of a headache for the producers of these broadcasts, because there's something different, I think, in the spirit of this World Cup. Again, not just representing regions that often get written out of past tournaments and are seen kind of as being on the margins, but kind of taking center stage. And now all of a sudden it feels like the England-France match and some of these other matches are the ones that are kind of a little bit more tangential in a way. As epic as that battle was between two, again, major European powerhouses yesterday, it felt like the real story was in Al Thumama Stadium, where Morocco played, and not in Al Bayt Stadium, where France and England had their showdown. But I see we have Ahmed with us, so I don't know if
Ahmed
he
with
wants to
us. He's
chime in
next. He's down
from
the street
Doha.
from you.
That's right.
Yes, I'm bringing you fresh stories here, and my apology for not being able to join you for much and not on time. But it's been a wonderful World Cup. If I may I share?
Yes, you have the floor, Ahmed, until you gotta go.
Okay, and I hope I'm not going to be redundant with some other ideas that were mentioned before. So basically, by far, this is the best World Cup. I've been to 5 World Cups. This is by far the quality of the games, the competition, and the whole host country with their preparedness for it is amazing. What you see on TV as a game is different from what you are when you are in the stadium. So England-France match might have been a very nice match, but I think it was in the stadium, the other 3 matches with the atmosphere-wise were far superior than the England-France match. Obviously, tactically, it was an awesome match, England-France. We talked about the World Cup is always a place for young talents and stuff. I think what's so unique about this World Cup is the underdog or underestimated the goalkeepers. They shined. All these 4 teams that are in the semifinals, with the exception maybe of France, they have the goalies that shine more than Courtois or the German goalie or the other ones. So that was for me, the opportunity for them, and they did very well. The locals are very nice here with us. I don't know, it's only the World Cup, but for me, the experience has been amazing. I love the cross-cultural aspect of this tournament, where you see the locals cheering for Messi, and then at the end of the game, Argentinian fans hugging them in their white costume, and it's just amazing to see. Most importantly, though, is seeing Morocco reaching the semifinal. I know we talked about it. I joked about having a relative from Morocco, and then Khalid being from there, but then they actually made it. I thought they're gonna just go to the round of 16, but they went well beyond our expectations. Will they go beyond the semifinal? I don't know. History is not with those teams when they reach the semifinal. That's usually their limit, but we'll see what happens. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Amir. This was lovely, and we hope to do this again, because based on the time, I'm looking at the time, it looks like the structure that we set up and that Matt oversaw might have to be split into 2 episodes. So if we don't get to some of this, we'll get to it later. Enjoy the 2-day break, you and Abdullah and Doha, and we'll stay as long as you like. You can listen in. Arjun and Eli and Matt and Omar have yet to speak, but before we go to any of them, let's go to the actual resident Moroccan, Khalid Namiz, to just tell us something emotional that's not necessarily analytical, because we're going to get to the analysis of upsets and so on. Khalid, how do you feel?
Yeah, if you know me, you know I'm not known for my emotive personality, but I haven't cried this much in a long time, probably since my father died in 2007. It's an indescribable feeling, seeing and sharing this achievement with all Moroccans around the world, all Arabs, Amazigh. We'll get into that. But just looking at these videos, thinking about the last 2 years, all these people that suffered during COVID, the repression in Morocco, the poor people who have nothing else to hold on to, they feel like they're part of something huge. They feel like they achieved something. It's hard for me to put it into words. It's unbelievable. Everybody I know, whenever I call my friends, my family, everybody's crying on the phone. There's also something very interesting that Abdullah mentioned, which is the family aspect. You see these players in the field running to their families, their mothers, and just hugging them and making them part of the celebration, which is something very human, very heartwarming. What else can I say? Everybody's over the moon right now. I mean, at this point, Morocco is playing with house money, as it were. But I know I was the pessimist at the beginning of the World Cup, so open mouth, insert foot. But now I'm a believer, and I know it has not been the prettiest form of football. It is actually a surprisingly watchable defensive stance, because the counterattacks are very slick. The individual skills are very good. You have moments of brilliance. It's not the most boring kind of parking the bus sideways. The counterattacks are actually interesting. It's still not the sexiest form of football, if I'm honest, but
No.
I'll take it.
How you doing?
I'll take it. Yes, that's it, Bassam.
You're muted, Bassam.
Let's hear just some quick remarks from the rest, starting with Arjun as a member of the most populous, or the most populous to be country in the world.
It's been an amazing tournament. As you can probably tell, my voice is a bit strained because it's just been so fascinating and amazing watching the game. So many storylines that we'll get to. I think the thing that's been interesting to me, and I know we had mentioned this last night, is just the ebbs and flows of the tournament. just when you think a team is strong, whether it's England, whether it's Portugal, whether it's Spain, they lose. Brazil. And so I think it's a tournament of Cinderella stories. It's a tournament of upsets. And yet, here we are, and Argentina and France are still in the mix. And you also have a potential, of a potential rematch of the last World Cup and Croatia and France making the finals again. And of course, you potentially have Morocco being the first ever African team to ever make a final, let alone a semis. So it's been amazing to watch.
Others, Omar, Eli, Matt, in any order?
Well, this was actually alluded to earlier. This is the first African side to ever make it past the quarterfinals. Cameroon lost out in the quarters in 1990. Ghana infamously lost to Luis Suarez in 2010, and I know I went out of order here. Senegal with their run in 2002. This is the first time we've seen an African team at this stage in the competition. I was trying very hard to explain this to my friends who only watch football once every 4 years for this tournament, what a big deal it was. And I'm not Arab. I was choked up trying to explain the magnitude of this moment. But they're not the only underdogs who have punched above their weight, so to speak. Japan upsetting both Spain and Germany the way they did in the group stage. That was some of the best football I've seen them play. They stuck to their style. It wasn't very sexy. Their second goal against Germany was something out of the English Championship. It was one long ball over the top, out wide, whip into the box, bang. But that's okay. You don't always need to play tiki-taka in order to succeed. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that's part of why Spain failed the way they did, is because all that passing and no end product. But the other underdog, they're on my shirt, Croatia. Once again, a nation of 4 million people somehow in a semifinal just because they don't get nervous during penalties. And we will talk about their opponent and the failures later in this episode after I've ceded the floor to other people to talk about just all of these little engines that could.
Eli and Omar. Eli, before your lights go out.
Without any doubt, this World Cup is making history. And touching on some of this, these records that are being set, the question that came to mind is Didier Deschamps, is he going to be the second manager who's going to repeat in a World Cup? It only happened once in 1934-38. Vittorio Pozzo, who was the Italy's manager, repeated as the manager of the World Cup, of winning the World Cup for Italy, even though there were a lot of questions about the political ambiance during that time, just pre-World War II. But is Didier Deschamps going to repeat? Is it going to be another France versus Croatia? We don't know. We would have to see. We all have our preferences, and we sure hope that Morocco will be in there. And we are looking forward to that part. And I really was going to talk about. I wanted to talk about Messi and what happened with him and Van Gaal, but I think Omar is with the Argentinian shirt. I hope he can jump on into that, because that was very significant for somebody who is respected and very well poised, usually during all his playing time. Omar?
Yeah, we want to get to all of this. We're just trying to get some emotional feedback first. And Omar, I think it's the last. We might be joined by others, but Omar, floor is yours.
Yeah, so we'll save the discussion about Argentina, Croatia later in the show, but I think in a few quick points, first what I could say is that thank goodness that this is being played with fans. I mean, I can't imagine if this was like, instead of 2022, 2020, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know if they would have canceled it, postponed it, I don't even know if that was something that they had been thinking about what would happen because, and obviously this is trivializing the issues because, the pandemic was much more of a serious issue, but I mean, the experience is so amazingly different. I remember when Liverpool won the league, behind closed doors, it's not the same. You couldn't feel any joy, any emotion. And that just goes to show how much the fans make a difference. And as much as I've been one who is against holding major tournaments in countries without the infrastructure because there's such an incredible waste of time, it does show that holding it outside the traditional places makes a difference. And I think Abdullah had alluded in this in one of your op-eds in the New York Times, perhaps, that, yeah, this is like in a different space, but also you have people from South Asia, from East Asia, from other places around the world who wouldn't make it necessarily to the World Cup, actually showing up and, all the Moroccan players, all the teams saying it does make a difference to have the huge fan support. So I think at an emotional level, you can see that really reverberating and resonating in ways that is really amazing. The solidarity with Morocco has been incredible. Who would have thought this would be the story going into this? I think it's just amazing. As much as I am rooting for Argentina to win, I think if it's an Argentina-Morocco final, which I think is unlikely but could happen, I'm going to have mixed feelings. I'll be very happy if Morocco does it. I mean, it's now, even now, they're part of the Final Four. It seems like an impossible dream. So, I mean, it's just like hard to fathom. In terms of the equalizing, I mean, I keep thinking about this in terms of, the big teams and the small teams. And I think with England and France, you saw how there's something about the know-how, the experience, the craftiness that shows up with Croatia, shows up with some of these top teams. And I keep thinking that the Champions League is held every year and still some of the same teams dominate. Like, how many times have we seen Real Madrid win despite not being the better team, so to speak, because they have that extra know-how, because they have that extra gear, that extra craftiness, whatever it is, or patience or whatever, that really makes a difference. So I think now we're seeing more teams have that in a way. I think we're seeing, I mean, the Croatia is a perfect example. Croatia has been to 6 World Cups since they became an independent nation and reached the semifinal 3 times, which is incredible. Half their appearances, they reached the semifinal. So all that's been incredible. We'll see what happens in the next week, but I think it's been just an incredible World Cup, one of the best that I've seen all around. I mean, I want to thank Ahmed for pointing that out in terms of overall excitement. It's just
for putting it together.
For putting it together, yes. But I also hope they see how the success of this should be maintained. I hope they don't go to the ridiculous idea of 16 whatever groups of 3, which they had in mind. We'll see what happens with that.
They actually are talking about scrapping that for 12 groups of 4. Sorry, I can't do math.
Omar, we're trying to see what's on your screen through the reflection of the Visit Palestine poster behind you. We can't see very well.
It's a grid of our faces.
Yeah,
it's the screen that's showing you guys.
Yeah.
No, just in case, because there's a moment where we were filming an interview at a prestigious university with Khalid, and yeah. All right. So next, I would like to suggest, if I may, Matt, because there's a lot going on with respect to Morocco and and frankly the question of identity and just the emotional gushing that's been on display. We might have to leave some of the topics until later, but can we just start by addressing the upsets a bit more pointedly, so that we can at least cover that part before the actual World Cup? So would anyone like to address the question of upsets? What were they, and whether they are significant? I had talked last time in the last episode about the importance of our observation of B teams over the past 20 years, and it looks like they're always getting better. But I think, and I shared last time, and there were some skepticism, even within myself, that the jump has been a bit more exponential this time. And I think Morocco demonstrates that, but not just Morocco. So let's talk about the upsets, starting with Matt, and then we'll go to the others. And feel free to
Yes,
jump in.
so
Don't wait for me to cue you anymore. Feel free to jump in after Matt.
yeah, so the of the upsets we've seen in the group stage. I know I already mentioned Japan beating Spain and Germany, because in order for these to be an upset, yes, we have to have David, but we also must have Goliath, and we have seen a lot of Goliaths get absolutely slapped around the pitch, and Croatia beating Brazil in that penalty shootout, which, by the way, Croatia were the better team for the entirety of the 2 hours. That Brazilian midfield was atrocious. That's the worst Brazilian midfield I've seen watching football. And I'm not just talking in my lifetime. I'm one of those weirdos who will watch old games on YouTube. I have never seen a more pathetic display from the Brazilian midfield ever. Other upsets, we had Belgium getting upset by Morocco in the group stage, and that golden generation, the nail is in that coffin. Saudi Arabia, we already touched on. So it's not just about the so-called B team showing up and punching the established superpowers in the mouth. It's about those established footballing superpowers, quite frankly, looking like garbage. The big one for me is the absolute failure of Germany in the group stage. Before these past two tournaments, never in the history of the World Cup, when the Germans have made it, and they've made, I want to say, 19 of the 22 tournaments or some ridiculous statistic like that, they had never before gone out in the group stage since 1938. Now they've done it twice in a row. That national team is in a shambles, and they need Das Reboot Part 2, which is the German word for two, I believe. If not, oh well, I don't know German.
I think what I would,
if I may
jump in, sorry, very quickly about the upsets. I mean, I think, watching the game, so Eli and I watched some of the game of Germany, Japan. We were in Vienna in a bar together. And that was a game where Germany dominated, and they could have been up several goals by halftime even. And then Japan came back. And then in a sense with Spain, but the other upsets, and I guess Saudi Arabia, maybe Argentina, but I mean, the other upsets were upsets because we think of the teams as inferior, but not actually when you see the performance. I mean, Morocco, Khalid mentioned that they were not as exciting. I think Morocco is more exciting without possession than Spain is with possession. I mean, Spain is more boring to watch with possession than Morocco is without possession. So some of these upsets are upsets because historically we have an image of our mind of who's top and who's not. But rarely, I mean, other than maybe Saudi Arabia, Argentina, and Japan, Germany, were the actual upsets in the sense of like the underdog was just peppered and then they won in the last second. So I think that's, again, we need to shift our perspective there.
I mean, Spain is about the most boring team in the world to watch. I hate tiki-taka with a passion. I don't want to see 10 million side-to-side passes. Do something with the ball. Like, Spain actually set in their loss to Morocco, they set a record. They became the first team ever to complete 1,000 passes in a World Cup game. They had one shot on goal. That's pathetic. What's the point of having the football if all you're going to do is make fancy little backwards passes?
Arjun,
to add a little bit,
Arjun, you have words in your mouth.
To add, can you hear me? To add a little bit, to what Matt said, Germany did actually get to all World Cup except two of them that it was banned from, and it is absolutely if you read the actual press in Germany and the criticism, it is absolutely shameful the way they have been preparing the past couple of years for their future. So they're sticking with the old guards in a lot, even though they made some changes. But the idea is that and the way they've been going about it has not been very productive and has not been German-like. Let's put it that way.
Well said.
Arjun?
I'm still reflecting on it because it's all happened so fast and I can't ever recall a tournament with this many upsets. The one thing that does strike me though, like when I think about the Argentina Saudi Arabia game, when I think about Germany Japan, or even Morocco Portugal yesterday, it's that sort of lack of execution, right? Or in contra, the clinical execution by the underdog. Think about Saudi Arabia, right? That beautiful second goal, one of the goals of the tournament. Think about Japan's goal against Germany, right? You have the long outlet pass. The Japanese player puts it in the top corner above, Manuel Neuer. Yesterday, the Moroccan player looked like Michael Jordan when he got to that ball. He was so high in the air. I don't ever recall seeing a football player jump that high on the pitch. I didn't even think he hit it. So it's just been unbelievable, because I think that some of the dominant teams, they've had their chances. Argentina, I think, had 3 goals in the first half against Saudi Arabia that were called back for offside. Germany could have put 6 behind Japan in the first half. Portugal wasn't great yesterday, and so I get that. But I think if you juxtapose a lack of finishing, right, by the favorites with clinical finishing by the underdogs, all of a sudden, you can have an upset. And of course, as we know and as we've seen in this tournament, if you are going to get upset, it's better to get upset early. And so I think for Argentina, having come into it, I think with the tied with Italy for the longest unbeaten streak on record in like FIFA records, it was good for them to actually lose that first game, because every game for them since then was must win. And so they've kind of played with a fire that maybe some of the other favorites haven't.
So I think just to if I could just, there's this question about whether the gap is really narrowing. And I do think that to a certain extent there is that narrative, but also, I think the way that teams are approaching the group stages is also differing dramatically. I mean, there's no team that got 9 points out of their 3 matches this World Cup for the first time, I think, since 1994 that's happened. And I think partly because teams are preparing differently. I mean, you look at what France fielded against Tunisia, or what team Brazil fielded against Cameroon. Both games that those teams lost is because they knew they were already through, and they were trying to save themselves against injuries or whatever, or give other rotational players a chance on the field. But I think, there's something to be said about the fact, like, this is a very short tournament, and you want to maximize your time on the field if you're Mbappe to get those goals that you want to get and to be in the best possible rhythm that you can get. Instead, he played the last 15 minutes against Tunisia. And I don't quite understand why the teams are approaching things this way. If it's just that they're worried about injury, if winning those last games don't really matter, if they're thinking about the longevity of the tournament. But we're seeing less and less emphasis maybe on trying to kind of maximize your performance all throughout. The same with Brazil, again, in that third match. And then we saw it kind of come back to haunt them, that they didn't have exactly the same kind of rhythm that they would have needed. I mean, they played 36 insane minutes against South Korea, but then beyond that, we didn't see that again. And in fact, I would say that the earlier performances were far more reflective, and that's kind of what came back to bite them in the end. But there is something also about the teams that are kind of saving themselves for something, and you don't know what, as opposed to just saying, let's put it all out there, all 3 group stage matches, as opposed to the kind of, playing this long game.
Yeah.
I did not realize that no team had gotten 9 points until you said it, Abdullah.
No, but this is precisely another indicator of how we cannot take things for granted anymore. And I think the next World Cup will also demonstrate this further. And it's a number of factors. We haven't talked about this systematically, but it's a number of factors, including the fact that one of the most important factors is actually not a good factor in this sense, because it's about people playing in these top leagues rather than what's happening in the local host countries, right? I mean, in many ways, this is being demonstrated on the pitch with Morocco, but I'll leave that to another day. Khalid, why don't you opine on this, and then we have to move for the last 15 minutes to what's next in terms of aspirations, expectations, and bets. We all have our bets. We all have our sheet. I may actually just share it for fun. And I just want to say that before we start doing this, that based on our sheet, it looks like Khalid, you are way ahead. You are up ahead with 44 points, followed by Abdullah, 42 points. And then Toma, who is not with us, with 39 points. And then the rest of the 13 of us are below. So Mabruk Khalid, but it's not over
Thank
yet.
you.
تفضل.
Thank you. Yeah,
هلا
is that
هلا.
a sign of things to come? Some might say yes. At this point, I kind of lost the thread of what we're talking about, but I'll plug. Yes.
We're simply talking about upsets before we move
Yes.
to next steps, but you can mix it up.
Yes. So Arjun mentioned something about the inability to execute to finish, right? It seems that a lot of these teams now basically want to pass the ball into the net as opposed to take long shots like Chouameni did yesterday. That seems kind of a lost art. I know there was a few goals like that, but there's, I think Matt or somebody else, correct me if I'm wrong, there's like a change of style where you see these offensive players within the box still wanting to make 2, 3, 4, 5 passes before stepping into the goal, as opposed to putting a boot through it and hoping for a favorable deflection. But in any case, I think yes, there's the ruthlessness in front of the goal, but there's also the effectiveness of, coming from Moroccan, the effectiveness of defense systems that have been so strong and so solid and has turned results. So I think that's worth a mention as well.
And
what's also worth mentioning is goalkeepers who can stand on their heads.
Yes.
Yes.
Goalkeepers. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to catch Omar before he leaves.
He just did.
He just did. He won because he's got family, Argentinian family. So we wanted to hear his take on a couple of things that he wanted to sound off on. It's okay. So let's move officially to what's next, and what the predictions are. Of course, Italy and Oman seem to be at the top of the list. No, of course, Croatia, Argentina are playing tomorrow. I mean, the day after tomorrow, and then of course Maghreb and France. So what are we to look for? Let's start with Matt, and we all need to be a bit more efficient and to the point.
I think we're going to see at least one penalty shootout.
We lost you for a
just saying that
second. We
because I'm
lost
wearing
you
a
for a
Croatia
second.
kit, but
We lost you for a second. Can you repeat that?
I
Sorry.
said I think we're going to see at least one penalty shootout.
Is this your take on the future?
Yes.
That's
I'm
it.
also saying that because I am wearing a Croatia kit, and Croatia seems to have the devil's own luck when it comes to hitting penalties and their goalkeeper stopping penalties. I've never seen a goalkeeper look more confident than, and I can't pronounce his last name, than the Croatian goalkeeper in this tournament. He looks like every shot he's almost telepathically communicating to whoever's taking it, be it he didn't take one yesterday, but be it Neymar, Marquinhos, or whoever. I know where you're going to stick this, and I'm going to stick my hand there, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
All right. So can you let's put you on the spot, as I will do with everyone here, and just give us your prediction for Argentina. I know you'll do it on the sheet, but what's your prediction for Argentina, Croatia, and then Spain? And don't tell me penalty shootouts, because that doesn't.
Spain is out, by the way, Bassam.
Spain, Ecuador. No, but I mean, Maghreb in my mind is Maghreb and France.
It's all one, Andalus or Maghreb. It's like
as well as Croatia, France. So give us your predictions quickly, Matt, so we can move to the rest.
1-1 Argentina, Croatia, 1-0 in favor of Morocco over France.
Wow. And then what happens in penalty shootouts with Croatia?
I think Argentina's 4-3, but it's going to be close.
All right. Arjun.
Listen, from the very beginning, I picked Argentina to win. I think Argentina beats Croatia. I think France beats Morocco. I think Argentina beats France in the finals. Go back to 2018. Who are the two teams that Argentina lost to? They lost to Croatia 3-0 in the group stage. That put them second in the group. That made them play France, to whom they lost. And so it's this extraordinary story that if they were to win the World Cup, they'd have to beat the two teams who beat them in the last tournament, and then you'd have Messi versus Mbappe, probably two best players in the world today. I mean, I love Holland. I'd actually take Holland over Mbappe. One quick thing.
No. The show is gonna stop right now. Holland and Mbappe are not comparable. I mean, Holland does just a couple of things. Mbappe does everything.
No. You're wrong about that.
Whoa.
Holland is one of the greatest finishers. What we've seen in this tournament is, right? I understand Holland doesn't have goals from outside the box, but he is one of the greatest clinicians inside the box. He has a specialized skill that few human beings to ever take the pitch have had. And so I would take Holland over Mbappe any day of the week.
Because of the finishing, but we're talking about a number of other skills like playmaking, dribbling. I mean, he's very good inside the box.
Yeah. So listen, I get that. I'm just saying that, like, that's just sort of my take. But really quickly, and I think, Omar was going to speak to this. I followed Messi for 20 years. Okay. And I have never seen him, or rarely seen him, play with this kind of fire in his eyes, right? Going to Louis van Gaal, right? Like invoking the memory of Riquelme from 20 years ago, calling Weghorst a dummy and fool, throwing up that hand in the 100th minute with that handball. He's playing for blood, okay? And I'm just saying, I'm rooting for him. I hope he wins. And they are not going to go down without a fight. And at this moment in time, they are the most physical, resilient team in the tournament. And listen, I know France is the favorite. I get it. But you know where I'm at. And so I like Argentina to pull it out.
Well, Thomas not here, so we can like say whatever we want. Abdullah and Eli and Khalid.
Yeah, I expect Argentina to get through Croatia 2-0, probably comfortably. Croatia can't score. They just haven't. They don't have the goals. They can defend pretty well, but how long could you hold out against Messi and company? And I think that's going to be the case going forward, even in the final potentially. Although France has more firepower, so we're assuming, of course, France beats Morocco. A 1-0 there, considering Morocco has not conceded a single goal. That wasn't just that first own goal. This might be the point where that breaks. This might be. I mean, given what France has, this is the point where they concede, but not a lot. I don't expect it to be, 3 goals or even 2 goals. Just the 1-0 against France that gets them to the final. And then honestly, it's a really, really big toss-up. I'm persuaded by Arjun's fire for Argentina, but I think France is just a more polished team. They're more well-rounded defensively, despite the really bad display against England yesterday. I think they'll kind of get it together. And then they have a lot more going forward. Argentina's had to rely a lot on Messi. Their midfield has been really stagnant. If Spain is all midfield, Argentina is no midfield. Like, they're basically polar opposite teams. And so that's where I think they get beat up a little bit in a final. So I'm tilting it slightly in favor of France for a final.
Eli, I think you also share that.
I honestly think that I do agree with both Abdullah and Arjan. I'm from the same mind that I really like Argentina. However, we have to remember something that's very important. In 1986, Maradona had 2 very good deputies with him on that team in offense who produced, Barachaga and Valdano. They produced.
Meanwhile, the other 7 players sat back and defended.
Eli froze. He wasn't doing an
Messi
what
has
pause.
it's
There he
Argentina.
goes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Eli, you got
So,
cut
so
off. Hamid.
Argentina is Messi and his sidekicks. He doesn't have somebody he really can depend on. He really doesn't. So it's going to be a very tough game with Croatia. I think Livakovic, I think that's his name, the goalkeeper, will not be as lucky this time for Croatia. Croatia, I agree with Abdullah, can't score. They're a little tired. They're a little older. Argentina is a little younger. They can defend. They can play. And remember the names that are not playing for Argentina. Dybala is not even getting on the field because he can defend. So he doesn't have the team, the camaraderie to help him through, to get him through. I think they'll go through Croatia. Unfortunately, I don't think they will end up winning it all. France is a more complete team. One of the good things or bad things happened to France is they lost a lot of those questionable. One of those lost a lot of players where you have questions: who's going to start in the midfield, who's going to start up front. So that what we thought was negative ended up being positive for France. Right now, it's not a question who's going to be in. It's these people work together, move forward. There is no ambiguity on who's going to play what style. Is it going to be Conte with Pogba in there? Or no. It's set, it's done. Unfortunate for Karim Benzema. I wish he were there, but that's how it is. So now they can move forward. They're more complete. They're more organized. And I think they'll end up, unfortunately, scoring against Morocco. Morocco is a little tired. They are the dream of everybody, and I hope they go through. But in my opinion, reality will take over, and it's going to be France, Argentina with the nod, unfortunately, and I hate to say this, going to France.
Okay, before we go on, if Pogba, Conte, and Benzema were with the French team, do people here think this would have been qualitatively different in terms of their chances? Abdullah, yes or no?
No, I think they'd be about the same. I mean, I like some of the
Okay.
younger talent they have in there. Chouameni has been great.
Okay, Matt, I just want to hear your opinions on that.
I mean, that's why I nodded my head. Yes, I think
Yes.
it would be a little bit different. They'd be a little bit better.
Khalid?
Yeah, I think Conte, I know Chouameni has been great too, but Conte is just this glue that completely changes the dynamic within the French team. Yes, they are playing great without him, but I think he would have made them even better.
Arjun?
I agree with Khalid. Conte is he has the lungs of an ox. Yeah.
I would have said definitely, but because Giroud has been coming through, you know, I'll still say they would have been better. I'm just not sure if the difference would be like orders of magnitude. All right, I just wanted to address that. Okay, who else?
What are Khalid and Matt's predictions? Did you guys give your predictions for the finals?
No, who else? Yeah, I'm
I
trying
didn't
to
give
find
mine
out.
for a final. No.
Khalid too. I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, Matt didn't get a chance to speak. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I said I predicted the semifinals, but not the
Yeah,
final.
he did. Matt is done. Khalid, your turn. You and Abdullah.
No, Matt
right?
didn't predict the finals.
Huh?
Go ahead, Matt.
I only did the semifinals, but it's okay. Khalid, go.
All right. I think this time I'm going to think with my heart. I do think Morocco, France, talk about a fire game. So Spain colonized.
No, repeat the same thing. If you think with your heart now, it's not gonna pan out.
Yeah, I don't know. So Spain colonized Spain, Portugal, and France. All three powers colonized Morocco, and it's payback time. This is basically we can't do it, militarily. We'll do it on the soccer pitch. So
We can definitely cannot do it militarily, not because of capacity, also will of the powers that be.
Spain, and the Iberian Peninsula is done now on to
The heartland.
the French. That's right.
Okay,
So
so
I think talk about a fiery game, France Morocco. I think it's gonna be fireworks. I think the Moroccan defense will frustrate the French team. I think it will go. My prediction is that it will go to penalties, with Morocco making it through. I said
all right.
my heart, not my head. On the other side of the bracket, yes, I know Croatia is 100 years old, but those guys are they're so wily, they're so street smart. They have a knack for managing games. They never panic. They could be down 2-0 and everything is under control. They have this ability to just manage the game unbelievably. I think that will go into extra time with Messi scoring that last minute goal for Argentina to go through. As far as the final, I think Argentina will probably take it.
All right. Who didn't go yet? Abdullah?
No, I went, but let's hear Matt's final prediction.
Yeah, Matt's final prediction, and then I'll very quickly. Mine is like 3 seconds, and then we'll have to close so we can meet the 1 hour deadline.
I'm going to predict with my heart, which I've never done before. This is weird. I think Morocco is going to win the World Cup.
Okay.
I mean, this is so like amazing. But yeah, I'll give you my prediction in 3
Quickly,
seconds.
real quickly, I want to add. Hope that that Messi will put on a Maradona jacket and.
Oh, the internet's not helping, Eli.
That's unfortunate, but yeah, Morocco will crush Messi's dream.
And
of
take
winning
it
the
upon
World
himself
Cup.
to
I
do
would
this. He
never
hasn't.
thought.
Yeah, well, we'll see. My prediction very quickly: Argentina will beat France, and everybody's gonna worship Messi from here on out.
Oh, I'm shocked.
In the final. Oh yeah, everybody knows here from the 2018 World Cup, Arjun wasn't with us and Abdullah wasn't, but I think the others were. I won the predictions. That's the one time I think I won. It's been 4 years. We're doing Champions League and everything. So Matt knows that I still think that Messi will go back and win the 2018 World Cup as well, and he will win the 2022 World Cup, and he will also win the 2026 World Cup being held in Mexico, Canada, and the United States. All right. We still have a number of issues we didn't discuss, but to keep our promise, it's already 7 o'clock here in Beirut, 12 o'clock in the East Coast in the United States. Any last thoughts by anyone here? What should we look out for? One word, what should we look out for? Or one phrase? Arjun, then Khalid, then Abdullah, then Matt. What should we look out for?
Fire.
Fire. Okay. Khalid.
Go Yassine Bono.
Abdullah.
Messi versus Mbappe. I think it comes down to that.
But first, Hakimi versus Mbappe. I tweeted that today. Who's in for?
That's
I don't
right.
know if anybody saw that tweet. Okay, great. And Matt.
Lahaz. That dude needs to be locked away and never referee again.
Did they pick? I agree with you, Matt. Did they pick the referees for the remaining game?
No, we don't know. No, they haven't yet. As far as I know,
agree with you, Matt. Yeah, let's get Oliver.
Here's what I'm looking out for before we close. Messi is going to become the Incredible Hulk on Tuesday night. Mark my words. Okay, I'll stop here. Love you guys. This was remarkable. Thanks, Arjun. Thanks, Khalid. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Abdullah. Thanks, Eli. Thanks, Omar. Thanks, Amir. And hopefully we will do this again soon, perhaps before the final, but we'll see. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Thanks to anybody who's watching. I don't know if anybody's watching, but it really doesn't matter because this is
My neighbor was watching.
Labor of love. Yalla, take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Salam.